8 months away from the game, coming off an injury, battling the flu, sitting on the bench in 4 out of 5 matchups, and somehow Caitlin Clark still ends up as the youngest MVP in FIBA qualifying history. Think about that for a moment, because this isn't just a simple return story. This is what it looks like when a player is so impactful, so undeniable, that no amount of setbacks or questionable coaching decisions can keep her sidelined for long. In this video, we're going to break it all down. How she took over in the Spain matchup, the numbers that put her above everyone else in the tournament, and why 2026 is already shaping up to be a nightmare for any team that has to face the Indiana Fever or Team USA. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know just how impressive this run from Caitlin Clark really was.
MVP of the tournament is none other than Miss Caitlin Clark. It's undeniable the impact she's made on women's basketball, and here in Puerto Rico had quite the showing. Her debut with the senior team was a double-double with both points and assists. And in her senior debut, she wins the TISO MVP at the FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup qualifying tournament here in Puerto Rico.
If the matchup against Spain didn't start off easy, it was tight right from the opening tip. Spain came in with a clear strategy, and early on, it was actually giving Team USA problems. Their young lineup was playing fast, attacking downhill, and consistently getting into the lane, putting real pressure on the defense and throwing Team USA out of rhythm.
Might as well count it in.
Gustafson spots up for 3, and Gustafson gets half an inch of space. That three-pointers looked good all tournament long. Hamby connects again up top. Just off the back rim, Spain comes down with it. Cazorla over to Gustafson. Gustafson off the glass is good.
Away fam, projected to be a top WNBA draft pick, was out there scoring with confidence, going toe-to-toe with top-level talent. Meanwhile, 20-year-old Iana Martin was running the offense and locking in defensively, playing with a poise that had Team USA's starters clearly uncomfortable. The game kept swinging back and forth throughout that opening quarter, with neither side able to pull away. By the start of the second, it was all even. Undeadlocked against a Team USA team that had been dominating the entire tournament. And through all of it, Caitlin Clark was still on the bench.
For Team USA, and it's no surprise to either of us here that the different starting lineup, every single one of these games had a different starting lineup.
And this is where fans really started to go off online. In 4 of the 5 games during this tournament, Caitlin Clark wasn't even in the starting lineup. She was coming off the bench. Meanwhile, on the court, Spain was right there in the fight. The offense looked sluggish, out of sync, and the team's best playmaker was just sitting and watching it unfold. Everyone was asking the same thing. Why? Why is your primary floor general not out there running the game? Spain was throwing out a soft box and one and mixing in zone defenses, and Team USA's starters had no real solution. The ball wasn't moving, the tempo was completely off, and everything just felt stuck, like they were dragging through quicksand. And then Clark
Doing the right thing. She knows it's going to be tough to get to the basket with too many bumps with the bigs.
The instant she checked in, the entire rhythm of the game changed. Where the starting group had been getting smothered by Spain's aggressive blitz coverage, Clark immediately flipped the pressure. She turned defensive intensity into quick transition opportunities, reading the floor before Spain could even get set. She was hitting sharp kickouts, pulling up from deep range, and forcing defenders to chase her well beyond the arc, sometimes all the way out near half court. And once you're defending someone that far from the basket, your entire defensive shape starts to collapse. That's exactly what Clark does best. She senses those cracks instantly and knows how to punish them before the defense can recover.
Ryan Howard on the wing, up to Caitlin Clark. Clark from deep. What a shot from Caitlin. Man down, Caitlin Clark.
A source close to the team made it clear Clark was the one who sparked everything, bringing a level of dynamic offense that completely shifted the game's energy. And that wasn't just talk, it showed up in the numbers. Every major scoring run Team USA put together in that matchup happened with Clark on the floor. The final score ended up at 84-70, but that box score doesn't really capture how tight things were before she took control. Spain came to compete. Alwa Fam and Iana Martin are legitimate talents who held their own and kept it competitive early on. That's exactly why Clark's impact stands out even more. She didn't just dominate a weak opponent, she stepped into a real battle and made it look controllable.
What's your favorite part of playing for Team USA?
Favorite part? Have we put it on this shirt?
She also logged more minutes than anyone else on the entire Team USA roster throughout the tournament, not just in the Spain matchup, but across the whole event. So the same player they were consistently bringing off the bench to start games ended up being the one they couldn't afford to sit once she finally got on the floor.
One of the best young prospects there is around the world. Kelsey Plum wide open for a three, cannot leave her.
Imagine this. A player comes off the bench in 4 of 5 games and still tops the team in total minutes played. That alone is enough to make you stop and think, but it doesn't end there. She also leads Team USA in assists, plus minus, and overall efficiency. This isn't just a bench player having a hot streak for a week, this is something entirely on another level.
Trying to get open now, passes it over to Beckers. Beckers uses the re-screen, falls, finds Clark, who gets the extra pass in the corner to Copper, and Copper.
Let's lay the numbers out clearly. Across 5 games, Caitlin Clark averaged 11.6 points per contest. She also recorded 6.4 assists per game, her totaling 32 assists throughout the tournament. On top of that, she led Team USA in 2-point shooting percentage, free throws made, and free throws attempted. And she did all of it while playing more minutes than anyone else on the roster, by a wide margin. Think about that. The same player being brought off the bench to start games ended up logging the most time on the floor overall. Those two realities don't really line up unless you actually watch what happened every time she stepped into the game.
Young looking to take advantage of a wide open Howard. Can't this time, and Gustafson with the rebound, but she saves it inbounds to Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark is there.
Here's where things really start to stand out. The plus-minus metric tells the story in a way that's hard to ignore. Caitlin Clark didn't just lead Team USA in that category. She led the entire tournament. Every team, every player, every nation competing in Puerto Rico. Whenever she was on the floor, while Team USA outscored opponents by a margin no one else in the field came close to matching. You can debate rotations, roles, or system fit all you want, but plus minus simply reflects what happens to the scoreboard when a player is in the game, and the numbers made it clear. And it doesn't stop there. Her efficiency rating backed it up as well. Across all teams in the tournament, Clark finished at the very top. Not just first on Team USA, but first out of everyone.
Her and Paige buckets.
Copper.
And the assist numbers deserve a closer look. Averaging 6.4 assists per game in a FIBA qualifying tournament is no small feat. At this level, guards are facing disciplined international defenses built specifically to cut off passing lanes and force mistakes. Simply clearing 6 assists a night in that environment is difficult for anyone. What makes it even more impressive is the context. Caitlin Clark was doing it off the bench. Fewer early touches, fewer opening possessions, and still consistently creating looks for her teammates at an elite rate.
Finish to take the lead. Caitlin Clark tries to come the other way. The late whistle will put Clark to the line for 2 points.
The free throw numbers also say a lot on their own. Consistently getting to the line isn't random. It means you're attacking the defense, drawing contact, and forcing opponents into tough, uncomfortable decisions. And that's not the profile of a player standing around in a limited role waiting for opportunities to come to her. That's someone actively creating advantages every time down the floor. Clark in transition.
Clark turns the corner, and it's going to be a foul called.
on number 5 for Team Spain, Maite Cazorla, her first personal foul of the game.
So when you step back and look at the full stat sheet, one thing becomes obvious. The coaching choices and the numbers were pulling in completely different directions all tournament long. The same player who led the team in almost every major statistical category was also the one starting games on the bench in 4 out of 5 appearances. That contradiction is hard to ignore, and even harder to justify when you look at what the data actually shows. 8 months away from the court, not starting in most games, and still finishing as the youngest MVP in FIBA qualifying tournament history. And honestly, that alone is worth sitting with for a moment. This wasn't FIBA just handing out an MVP because the Caitlin Clark is the biggest name in women's basketball right now. This award came straight from 5 full games of production. We're talking 11.6 points per game, 6.4 assists per game, plus tournament best plus minus and efficiency numbers that nobody else in the entire field could come close to matching. Every team, every nation, every player who stepped on the floor in Puerto Rico, Clark finished above all of them. And what makes it even more notable is that this isn't her first MVP in a FIBA-sanctioned event. She actually earned her first one back in 2021 with the USAU 19 team. So this has been building for years. She's done it at a younger age before, and now she's repeated it again, coming off a major injury layoff, or dealing with experimental rotations and navigating coaching decisions that never really settled around her role.
She's the best. She's not just a legend, but a great person.
The All-Star 5 selection that came with the MVP isn't just a side note. It actually reinforces the whole picture. The experts who study international basketball at a deep technical level looked at this tournament and arrived at the same conclusion the numbers already pointed to. Caitlin Clark was the most impactful player across all 5 games. That's not about name recognition or popularity. That's a pure basketball evaluation, and the youngest ever detail is what makes it even more significant because it speaks to what comes next. She's already producing at this level right now, at this age, and she's still developing. And that's the part that should really stand out for Indiana Fever fans. Not just that she made it through the tournament healthy, but that she's only getting better from here. So now the real question is, what does all of this mean going forward? Because what happened in Puerto Rico didn't exist in isolation. The floor general skills Caitlin Clark refined in Nate Tibbetts' system during this tournament, her pick and roll decision making, the quick outlet passes, and the way she constantly pushed tempo, all of that goes straight back to Indiana with her. The offensive structure Tibbetts used over these 5 games almost feels like a live preview of what a fully healthy, fully unleashed Indiana Fever offense could look like over a full WNBA season. Fast-paced, guard-driven, and built entirely around Clark, controlling everything from the top. And then there's the bigger picture, Berlin, the 2026 World Cup, and the upcoming 2026 WNBA season. They're now more connected than ever after what we just saw. Clark showed she can run a high-speed, guard-heavy system at the international level immediately after an 8-month injury layoff, and that matters more than it might seem at first glance. Most players returning from that kind of absence need significant time just to regain rhythm. Clark, on the other hand, came back and still finished the tournament leading in both plus-minus and efficiency.
successful tournament for Team USA as they go home with 5 wins under their belts.
The chemistry Caitlin Clark built with Paige Buchers over those 5 games in Puerto Rico isn't staying there. It's heading to Berlin with both of them, and that alone is going to give international defenses a real problem to solve. Now, let's zoom out and look at what actually shifted when Nate Tibbetts stepped in, because the difference isn't minor, it's obvious on film. Before that, Kara Lawson's approach with Clark leaned heavily toward using her more off the ball, distributing minutes and keeping the offense evenly balanced so no single player took over the system. On paper, that looks like careful roster management, but on the court, it often looked like the offense was being held back from reaching its full pace and rhythm. Lawson wasn't present for the Spain matchup itself, but her influence was still visible in the early stretch of the tournament. More conservative rotations, cautious lineups, and situations where Clark was literally starting games on the bench while opponents were allowed to stay within striking distance.
Very pleased with the tournament, our group. We got a great group of women that are proud to wear a USA jersey, which is awesome. And it was a lot of fun for me coming down here. I thought I was going to be on vacation as an assistant, and Kara had to get back to more important stuff, and so I appreciate the players and the coaching staff that helped me along the way.
Well, you still got the tan like you're on vacation,
Yes,
so you're doing all
yeah.
right.
Tibbetts flipped the approach entirely, and he leaned into guard-heavy lineups, increased the tempo, and put Caitlin Clark in her natural role, running the offense instead of drifting on the wing waiting for the ball, and the impact showed up instantly. Just look at the Italy game. Clark was orchestrating pick-and-roll action over and over again, making decisions before the defense even had time to set. She was hitting the short roll reads, finding open teammates, and constantly pushing the pace in transition after both makes and misses. Italy simply had no solution for it, because there's no easy answer when a player at the top of the key is processing the game that quickly and controlling every possession. Then came the New Zealand game, and that's where the vision Tibbetts was building really came into focus. For the first time in the entire tournament, Caitlin Clark was in the starting lineup. She played 23 minutes, more than anyone else on the team, sharing the floor with Paige Buchers, while Kelsey Plum stretched the defense with her shooting. And Team USA didn't just win that game, they completely overwhelmed New Zealand. That lineup was a nightmare to deal with because Clark and Buchers both create in multiple ways. They can score, they can pass, they can run the offense, and they can punish you in different ways on every single possession, so defenses are left stuck choosing between bad options, and there really isn't a correct answer.
For this New Zealand team with 6 points to go along with 3 boards. Kelsey Plum, look at that steal, hands it up to Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin.
Stephanie White's tendency to favor a more controlled, slower tempo also plays into the bigger context here. Erin Clark herself has pointed out how that push and pull shows up clearly in the numbers. Cause and effect written right there in the stat sheet.
Coach, how will you evaluate the team's overall performance with the biggest positive, and from your perspective, the areas does the team still need to improve moving forward?
Yeah, I think KP hit on it. Just, this is a new group with a new staff. I was pleased with our ball movement. I thought we did a really good job of making the extra pass. We got some wide open threes. Obviously, we're super talented, but I loved how unselfish we were.
Are you ready for the part of this tournament that could end up shaping the next couple of years? Because Caitlin Clark and Paige Buchers didn't just play well together in Puerto Rico, they started building something real. And that's a problem international defenses are going to have to deal with. They came into this tournament with almost no shared experience. Different teams, different systems, different responsibilities throughout their careers. But by the time the Spain game arrived, the connection was already starting to look instinctive. Clark would push the break off a rebound, and Buchers already knew where the space was going to open up. Buchers would come off a screen. Diane Clark was already mid-delivery with the pass before she even fully turned the corner. That kind of chemistry normally takes months, even a full season, to develop. They put it together in just 5 games.
Spain wanted the call, but Paige is leaking her against Dioso, and that one is good for Team USA as Spain calls the timeout. Mad about the no call on that one. You think Coach Miguel Mendez will have a talk with the referees?
That 2-player action they were running is extremely difficult to defend because both Caitlin Clark and Paige Buchers can score at a high level. And both can also create for others, so when defenses collapse on Clark at the top of the key, Buchers is spotting up and knocking down open threes. And when defenders chase Buchers off screens, Clark is already reading the rotation and slipping passes to cutters before the defense can reset. There's simply no correct response when 2 players with that level of skill are making decisions that quickly together. A lot of analysts even described it as essentially unguardable, and based on the film, that's not an exaggeration. Now, early in the tournament, the situation involving Angel Reese was also noticeable and worth discussing. Reese is at her best when she's getting touches in the post and operating in a slower half-court rhythm, where she can establish deep positioning. But once Tibbetts shifted the offense toward a faster, guard-oriented style, the rhythm changed. And early on, you could see some of that adjustment play out in real time. Possessions were flowing more through Clark and Buchers, while Reese's usual involvement wasn't coming as frequently as it typically does. That transition-heavy system eventually carved out a role for Angel Reese that actually fit. She's one of the strongest rebounders in the game, and in a faster-paced offense, that skill becomes a real advantage. Instead of just finishing plays, she turns into the starting point of them, pulling down rebounds, immediately pushing outlet passes to Caitlin Clark, and sprinting the floor as a rim-running threat in transition. That's a legitimate role in an up-tempo system, and by the time the Spain game rolled around, that's largely what you were seeing. The early tournament friction had faded into something more structured and functional, with everyone settling into their responsibilities within the pace-driven system. So this system shift didn't just open things up for Caitlin Clark. It also helped Angel Reese find a role that actually fits within the structure, and Paige Buchers was already naturally built for this kind of up-tempo style. What Clark and Buchers have right now is a real foundation. You're seeing pick-and-roll chemistry, sharp transition reads, and a growing level of trust in each other's decision-making. And the wild part is, and all of that came together in just 1 week in Puerto Rico. Now Berlin is going to present a completely different challenge for anyone trying to slow them down. Even after 8 months away from the court, coming off a major injury, and being benched in 4 out of 5 games, Clark still finished the tournament leading in both plus-minus and efficiency. Then she walked away with the MVP, becoming the youngest ever to do it. That isn't just a comeback story. It's a glimpse of what happens when she's fully empowered to run the offense. For Indiana Fever fans and Team USA supporters, what happened in Puerto Rico is basically a preview, because when Clark controls the offense, the ceiling of both teams rises to a level we haven't really seen yet. The road to the 2026 World Cup in Berlin is coming quickly. Hey, let me know in the comments how impressed you are with Caitlin's run. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Click the video on screen. We'll see you in the next one.